So we're going to be making bar graphs soon. So I'm going to walk you through the steps of how to make a bar graph. That way when we start working with it in class, you'll be familiar with it. Go ahead and pause the video and set your notes up with the title of making a bar graph. And then just on the left hand side, you're going to have steps. And we'll put our steps in this area. You will write any questions that you have for me down here tonight. But we're going to wait and we're going to work on your summary in class. So you do not have to do your summary tonight. Okay, so now that you have your notes set up, we're actually going to look at how to set up a bar graph. So the first thing that you do is you collect your data. And you guys have already, we've already collected data, or we will be collecting data in class. That's the very first thing you do. So on your notes, write number 1 and just write collect data. And then the second thing, so you're going to write number 2. And the second thing that you're going to do is you're going to draw your X and your Y axis. So if you watch this little video, you start with a blank page. And basically it's a big L. And these little tick marks are the units that you would use. Okay, those are not the units, but whatever your labels are. This is the X-axis and this is the Y-axis. So on number 2, if you'll say draw an X and a Y-axis and then draw just a little L. So you know, okay, then that's the first step in drawing the bar graph. All right, third step, you're going to label your X-axis. Your X-axis is your bottom axis. So in this example, they're doing months of the year, I believe. On your X-axis, you'll be actually doing the planets. So this would be Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. Okay, you can go ahead and do that in your example, or you can use the example that they use. It's up to you. And then the next step, so you're going to write number 4, and it is label the Y-axis. Okay, and so the next thing that you would do is your Y-axis is the one that goes up and down. Okay, their Y-axis is labeled with the number of inches that it rained for that month. Your Y-axis will be actually labeled with the distance the planet is from the sun. So the Y-axis gets kind of tricky when you're using numbers because you have to decide, you don't always have to label it 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Okay? It depends on what your numbers are. So if your numbers only go from 1 to 5, then you wouldn't want to label this 10, 20, 30, 40. You would want to label it maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or you could even do 1/2 or a half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3. So you have to decide how you're going to label these numbers. And we're going to have a discussion in class about how we're going to label hours. But you have to understand that you do have to label your Y-axis and you do have to label your X-axis. And it's very important that you see how they have months here and the X-axis. We need to know what those are, okay? And so really they should have inches here, the word inches somewhere, because on yours you're going to have planets down here and you're going to have distance over here. Everything needs to be labeled so when someone looks at the graph, they know what they're looking at. And then step number 5 is you're going to draw your bars. Okay, so it looks to me that in the first February they collected, there was 30 inches of rain. And then in March, there were 20 inches of rain. Okay, so for yours, you would say, okay, Mercury is on your sheet. Mercury is 4 centimeters, because we're just going off of our model that we're making, is 4 centimeters from the sun. So we would draw a bar that was at number 4, and we'll talk about how you just kind of estimate in between 0 and 10. So 4 is going to be just below half. So your 4 would actually be kind of right here. Okay, so in your notes, you should have number 1, collect data. Number 2, Draw an X and Y axis. So that should be number 2. Number 3, label the X axis. So that's what you did there. Number 4, label the Y axis. That's what you did there. Number 5, draw your bars. Okay. Something that is not on here is your graph, or your bar graph needs to have a title. So our title would be distance of planets from the sun. Okay, so what your notes should actually look like, and I just did this really quick, and I didn't have notebook paper, so yours can be on notebook paper, and you still will have your questions down here. If you have questions, if you don't understand something, write your question down here in your question area so that we can discuss it in class in first thing when we get into class in the morning. And then we will also do a summary together. Okay? So make sure you have this. Make sure you bring your notes to class tomorrow. And you also take a picture and submit it just so I can have it in Haiku, but you need to bring them so that we can finish and complete them.